So I was just thinking. Welcome to I Was Just Thinking podcast about creative confidence. My name is Liina and I am a musician, music producer, artist, and a soon to be an author in a couple of months. My book about creative confidence and music production will be out. But I am welcoming you here today because we will be talking about a thing called Quartet of Creativity. It's a theory I have developed to explain my thoughts about how confidence affects our creativity. And I feel like I'm going to be probably referring to it a lot in this podcast. So I thought the second episode is going to be good to explain what it is. And it's just going to give a little bit concept of how I see this whole topic. And I have found that whenever I explain this to people, it seems to be helping them also to find acknowledgement around these type of issues and where our creative blocks come from and how we kind of can navigate, I guess, our feelings versus the world and why we're affected the way we are by this industry, these industries. And also, as usual, we're going to read a couple letters from you lots about your creativity and your insecurities in the industry and so on, and we will discuss them. So, Quartet of Creativity. It's a concept that I was developing for my book, and what I found out is that there is the topic combines so many different sciences, and I'm not a psychologist or neuroscience or any of those people, but I love reading about them and I love the different concepts. So without kind of needing to go into the sciences too much, I developed this concept to kind of explain how everything is connected a little bit more. So let's start with, we have 4 points. And they are in a circle. The first point is called heart. That is us. That is our psychology almost. That's the inner work of us. So that's where a lot of our insecurities, but also passions and love and our character and who we are is kind of in our heart. The next point is brain. And brain is more the neuroscience of things. Like, example, the fact that I'm a neurotypical person. So that is a very big way of defining how my brain works. And everybody has a brain that works uniquely to them. So everybody's brain works differently, and we will perceive the world differently because the way our brain is. And also it's kind of like the control central of our creativity. So that's where a lot of our decisions of whether we're doing something or we're not doing something is happening. A lot of, like I was talking in the first episode about fight or flight reaction. So example, that kind of more physiological reaction that happens us and then causes anxiety is kind of like where we're talking in the brain. I know it's not physically in the brain, but this is a metaphor, so forgive me. And then the third point is called space. That's more the sociology. I don't think I'm saying it correctly, but that's how I'm saying it now. That's the space we're in. So that's other people, that's society, learned behaviors, cultural aspects, everything that we surround us and our brain and our heart. That is a big topic. And mostly when we're talking about what affects our creativity, a lot of it is the space. And all of that is then affecting how our heart works and how our brain works. Then we have the fourth thing, and that is action. Action is the actual doing whatever you want to do. So whether that is drawing a picture, making a song, whether that is, climbing a mountain. It's the action of us physically doing something. And all of these 4 points are in a circle, right? So what I personally like saying, and I feel like it kind of explains it really well, is that they're all connected and all of them affect each other equally. And if one of those things is kind of shaken or slightly unsure, or we're very confused about one of them and we're not aware, then it will affect all of them a lot. And that's where usually our creative blocks and our hesitations of not doing something kind of comes from. And so let's have a little example of how this works. Let's say that we have a passion, we have an idea. Let's say that we are in a shower and we get this creative idea to, I'm going to talk about making music now because I'm a musician, so it kind of works for me. And if there's people who don't know what music producer is, it's basically a person who uses technological instruments like synths and computer to make music. So it used to be a person who's in a studio who uses, it still is that kind of person, but nowadays the definition music producer is also extended to a person who is a musician, like an electronic musician, and that's what I am. So let's use that as an example. Let's say that I'm in a shower and I get an idea for a song and I'm very excited about that. That's my heart, that's my passion, that's my dreams, and everything kind of working in one to yes, let's do this. So I get out of the shower, I go to my studio, I sit by my synth, and suddenly I think about all these different things. So firstly, I see all the buttons on the synth and my brain is saying, this is too overwhelming. Because how can you suddenly get what you have in your heart, the whole idea, into action with all these buttons? So there's this strike of insecurity coming from my self-belief to my own brain. I believe that my brain is not techie enough, not good enough, because I've been told all my life that I'm not good in technological things, or I'm not good in complex things because I'm dyslexic and all these things. So I have this very strong feeling suddenly of self-doubt that I will not be able to do this. And then obviously fear and anxiety and all that is gonna like attack me as well. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this was like, I feel anxiety and I feel disappointment and maybe a little bit shame that I thought that I can do it. And I feel disappointment because I had this really good idea, but I'm not really sure how to make it happen, because all of my heart and my brain is now affecting the action. But let's add the third point, space, into this as well. So space is other humans. So let's say that I'm already sitting there feeling a little bit self-conscious about my abilities to actually make anything. But let's say that I want to make a house track because I make house music. And there had been a conversation with my mother, example, just recently about how she was there, like we were listening to music and she was like, oh, I really struggle with this kind of like thumping, like music. And that comes to my mind suddenly at that moment. And I'm thinking, but what if I make this track? My mother is not going to like it. So suddenly something outside of me is now impacting also my action. And all of this is feeding to the action, which means that I feel blocked and I feel like I'm incapable of doing this track that started from so pure and authentic excitement of making a track. And all of this now is feeding back into my heart, making me feel anxious, self-conscious, feeling like I don't have the confidence to do any of this, that I will not be able to do it. And fight or flight kicks in and makes me feel, fuck this. Oh, I didn't know what we're standing with the swearing yet, but fuck this. And I just want to shut everything down, and I want to forgive it and leave it, and I will feel disappointed because I was really excited, and I doubt myself now, like, who the hell did I even think I am, that I thought I can do this. And yeah, and it all becomes a mess. And all this experience now is making me think, like, next time I want to create, and next time I get an idea, I will remember this cycle and this experience, and it will make me doubt if I can do it ever again. And the fact is, a lot of people, let's say that already at this point, I already have a synth, I already taken that step. But what about the people who have never even taken the first step to even start their first project, to even think that they could ever be creative the way that they want to be? Because maybe the heart, the brain, and especially I would say the heart, where our self-confidence is, as well as the space, have been telling you all your life, all these same kind of messages, all your life. Your brain is not good enough. You can't do this. You are a girl, so you can't do techie things. Or maybe everybody else will be better than you. Maybe you will never, like, all these little messages that the space is telling you, and you start to believe. And what more you believe in those, the harder it is even to ever to start doing your projects and start doing art. And even if you start doing art, then what if you're just sitting there thinking that it will never be good enough? Or you will never be good enough? Yeah. And I do find the more I'm talking about creative confidence, the more I see this around me, and the more I realize is that we are not talking about this enough. We're talking about tools, and we're talking about techniques on how to overcome all this, all these 4 points. We're talking about all of them, and we're mostly focusing action. We're focusing on getting better tools. You should buy this thing. It's going to make you create better. It's going to make you go faster. But the thing is, art is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be that feeling that you had in a shower, and it should be that throughout the whole cycle. It should feel like that. Or even if you do feel insecurities, because I do feel also a key point is that we can't always feel that 100%. It, as we already talked in the last episode, is like you will feel insecurities, you will fear and anxiety, but it's about taking that high road that we talked. So we have low road and high road. Low road is the idea that you start believing all these things, all the bad things that about yourself that you've been told and what you tell yourself. And you start believing them, and you think, okay, I can do this. I will not be able to do this. Whereas high road is, I acknowledge I'm feeling this. I acknowledge that the space is affecting me. I acknowledge that I might have restrictions when it comes to my brain. Maybe there's knowledge restrictions versus expectations. I acknowledge that I have low self-confidence. But so what? But I will still do it because I want to. Life is too short. And I want to. And that's enough. Wanting to do something is enough to fight all this and just do it. And yeah, I feel very passionate about it. I feel very passionate when I see like new Patreon members, example, who come to our community. And we have these monthly challenges where I challenge people to make a track a month. And we have first timers who come in and they always say, excuse me, like, you know, excuse the track, it's not ready, it's not mixed, it's not perfect. I hear this like a so long list of reasons why we shouldn't judge them. I see this so much around everywhere when you see like children being absolutely so confident about their creativity. They feel so good about whatever they create and they feel confident. They can stand behind it and say, you know, this is the best picture ever. And the more we grow up and the more we are in the educational systems, the more we are needed to evaluate our art against other people's art, the more that confidence starts to shred down, and the more we start to question and we start to believe that there is right and wrong in art, in creativity, that trying is embarrassing, that doing art is useless in this world. We start to believe in all those things, and all that innocent excitement that we used to have will disappear. And I'm a big believer of finding that innocent excitement again, and that everybody has it. There's no people that are more creative than others. I think creativity can come in different forms, in different ways. Someone who's a mathematician can be extremely creative in their mathematics things. And someone who's like, that we have an idea what creative person looks like. But I do believe that humans are extremely powerful with our brain, and we can do so many things if we let ourselves go from the pressures that we acknowledge what's hurt our self-confidence, and we acknowledge what things are currently still impacting our action, our self-confidence. So if you think about those 4 things, especially heart and space, if we start acknowledging what's happening there, and how also we acknowledge how our brain works and who we are, and we start acknowledging how all that is affecting our action, we can find a lot of that innocence and the happiness throughout that. And I think it's pretty cool that we are here and we have the ability to do that. But I think the hardest thing about this whole thing about finding creativity, finding and acknowledging what your confidence, the hardest thing about acknowledging all of this is that it takes some work, and it can be uncomfortable. And whether that is that you start the job of just figuring those out throughout, like example, listening to a podcast like this, I think that's the kind of first step of figuring that out for yourself. There's no one, because nobody can tell you exactly, everybody's so different. Nobody can tell you exactly how, like, there's no shortcuts. There's not tool that you can buy to suddenly make you enjoy creativity and make good art. Because I think the issue is that we have a society where we want to buy shortcuts to make good art. What does that even mean? What does that mean? I understand that we have ideas of what we consider good and what's bad, but that's subjective. Art is always going to be subjective, and it's always going to be about how other people rate it, and the value is rated by that. But if we start making art so that other people can value it, that's a dead end, because that's only going to affect your creativity, and that's going to affect your ability to do creativity and enjoy it and do it fully from heart, which usually creates, quote unquote, good art. it's so complex. And this is the thing. That's why I started this podcast, because we will open a lot more of this up. I can't just in like 40-minute podcast episode go through this whole topic, but I wanted to open up this Quartet of Creativity, and I will be referring to it a lot more in these episodes. So hopefully this has helped you a lot to understand where I'm kind of coming from. And I would love to hear your perspective. So remember to DM me at Liina Thinks on socials, on Instagram. And DM me there your letters, your perspectives, how you think about all this. I would love to hear. And what I will do is that in every single episode, I want to have a more of a dialogue with you lot about it. And I will read your letters here and we will discuss it. So this one is my friend who's also a music producer and content creator. And let's have a look what I'm taking a section of what she's written. By the way, that's the one insecurity I have, is I'm very dyslexic. So reading things here on a podcast that I'm not editing, that is scary. So don't judge me. Recently, I have been trying to celebrate my ability to be flexible and pivot effectively. What I consider as being at times chaotic is actually a really fast-tracked process to narrowing down my niche and space in the industry. And that's something I didn't have before. I've definitely spent far too much time preserving when I should have quit. And sometimes you just have to try the other extreme to find your balance. I could go on for hours about this, LOL, but I think the message that I really am trying to reinforce in myself and at the end of this letter is to pay attention to the people that surround you and how they affect your life and self-esteem. Space. And the second one is, rather than shunning your current process or lack of progress, figure out what you have learned from those situations and don't be afraid to walk away from some of them. Change direction and follow the opportunities. As much as I have pivoted a lot in the last 2 years, I really don't regret any of those decisions. This is so relatable and so good. I totally agree so much about, like, I think we've been taught since we were kids that you need to pick one thing. It's one of the biggest rules of this life, isn't it? What do you want to be when you grow up? And you pick one thing and you grow up to be that thing. And then for the next 30 odd years, you will do that thing and then you will retire. But personally, I do believe that most humans are more complex than that. I do agree that, example, there's a lot of people who can find one thing and absolutely love that, and it will be as simple like that. So, example, between me and my husband, he's very much of a person who found antiques. He loves antiques. He thinks, breathes, lives antiques 24/7. That's his passion. And it took some job and some time for him to find that. And it's been a long process to find that passion. And he needed to go through many jobs and a lot of big decisions and risky things, a lot of emotions to actually have the courage to pursue and figure out what he wants to do. I think there is people like that can search for it and find it. But I also do think that there is people like myself that are a little bit more complex I don't know if it's more complex, but I think it's more about who you are than what you do. And let me explain. So, example, as a person, I'm a person who is a project person. I love projects. I love doing a thing and then getting to the end and then finish it and then start a new project. So I always said that I think that in this life there could have been a lot of things that I could have done. I could have become a baker, but then I would probably have started a baking YouTube channel, or I would have become a competitive baker, or making really big cakes, because somehow I'm a person who just wants to take things like to an extreme a little bit. So it's more about who I am as a person than necessarily what I do. So I could have become a baker instead of a music producer. But because I grew up in an artistic family and doing music and stuff, I feel like music was something that was almost like eating or breathing or walking to me. It was something so familiar and so easy for me to do, and such an easy way of like expressing myself artistically. So I do think that, like, but as a musician, I do projects. So for me, it was to realize that I will probably have a life and a career where I will have many different phases, where I will do a lot of different things. I'm not a person who can have a career and have 30 years of doing that. Let's say that financially I would need to support and have responsibilities. I would then rather to be in a job that I can go in, go out, and not need to think about it too much. So example, like go and clean offices and I can listen podcasts and be in my head the whole time and clean and do my job, go out, and then on the outside of that I can do my projects and stuff to be happy and to feel fulfilled. So I think there is many ways to kind of do that kind of job or path as a person like me. But I also do think what Liina was kind of talking about there is that because we've been taught very strongly that you need to have this path of find one thing, do that, and then retire, there's a certain element of failure and shame when you feel like you can't do that, or you feel like it wasn't for you, or it didn't work, or you're still searching. And I think that is the one thing that consumes a lot of us. So I think, trying is made to be shameful in this society, where in fact trying is what makes you live. The fact that you try to search who you are, try to search what works, trying different things, there's nothing shameful about it, because trying ultimately shouldn't be called, if it doesn't work, it shouldn't be called failure. So for example, I'm in a very much in points like what my friend was talking about there. I relate to it because I've been growing a YouTube channel for the last 5-6 years called LNA Does Audio Stuff. And I put so much effort and so much blood and tears and sleepless nights into growing this channel. And now, after these 5-6 years, I've grown to learn more about myself, and I learned to know that as a musician, I actually probably prefer just to make music and not to make tutorials about them necessarily. Make music, and then I can help and teach others throughout my own music and sharing what I'm already doing. I think it needs to be more that way for me than teaching first and then doing my music. So it needs to be my music first and then teaching throughout it. I'm more happy that way because I consider myself more of an artist than a teacher. But what I've noticed in the last years, oh, there's a bug here. It flew away. What I noticed in the past few years is that my also passion towards creative confidence and talking about these stuff is come to life, and I absolutely love doing it. And the camera stopped recording again. As usual, I needed to go and put it on again. I what I was talking about. I was talking about, yes, creative confidence. So I realized my passion towards creative confidence and talking and helping people as a creative confidence coach, and how much it actually means to me. And I feel like I'm good at it and I enjoy it. And it's very natural thing for me. And realizing that I kind of feel like I need to have two careers. I have my musician, I want to be an artist. Well, I am an artist. I want to do that. But I also don't want to, when it comes to like capitalism and collaborations and like selling that it's not about the art, it's about everything, the industry around the art. I don't enjoy that. I don't want to be part of that. So I feel like financially, I want to be independent from that. So having two separate careers, doing this creative confidence coaching and then separately doing my artist career seems more like logical thing for me. But the fact that my attention from my YouTube channel that I've been growing for so long, so this is long story short, to get from that YouTube channel, taking the attention and putting it to either my artistry or this creative confidence stuff feels partly like a failure. And I know it's not, because I'm trying something new. I'm doing something good for myself and something that I'm passionate about. That can't be a failure, can it? But because this society says a lot of things that add certain pressures, it feels like I'm starting again, starting from completely from scratch in your 30s or whatever age you are, especially when you're already grown something, feels like there's certain amount of shame and feel of failure in it. And I feel like I acknowledge that now. I acknowledge that that's happening, and I'm really trying to fight against it because I don't believe in it, but I've been so conditioned to actually feel it in my bones. It's really hard not to believe in it, in partly. So I think, long story short, I feel like I get you. I get that it's really hard to just sometimes accept that the direction that you were going for served you for that time period, but something needs to change. You need to do a pivot. You need to do something to follow your heart and who you are, and not other people's expectations or not the society's expectations. And I think, when we think about it, it's very much what you said. This message is very much covering what the whole Quartet of Creativity is, because it's the idea that you were saying. You said, see, I'm not cutting this video, so then now I feel like me reading this, it's like you're at home like listening this, like, why is she quiet? And so I'm just feeling like I need to make a sound or sing la 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 la. I am reading and thinking, but I can't read and think same time. Read and sing. So that didn't work. Yes, surround you and how reinforcing myself. And the end of this letter is to pay attention to the people that surround you and how they affect your life and self-esteem. That is the big thing, because we can acknowledge that the society is affecting us. As I was saying, it can affect us how we choose our careers, how we think about our passions, how we think about projects, how we feel shame and all these things. But we need to remember emotions are multi-layered. You don't only feel one thing. You can feel passion and love and excitement at the same time as feeling shame and guilt and all these things. But it's what you give the weight to. And what helps to give weight is to first acknowledge what's happening. So knowledge that there is things happening internally and the heart, what's happening in the brain, how your brain works, what happens in the space. So choosing to be around people that encourage you, motivate you, inspire you, and give you the confidence to go forward is literally the key. And the people who respect your boundaries and who help you find the boundaries, figuring out what works for you, and then realize also that gives a safe space for you to try again. Try, and try more and try more. I think that is we just read one letter today, but there's so many good things to read. But go and send me a DM at Liina Thinks, Liina Thinks. In Instagram, DM me, and I want to hear about your stories so I can read them in the next episodes. I think next episode, we will talk about why do we do this? Why do we do this to ourselves? No, why are we making art? Like the question, why? Why am I doing all this? Why am I doing this podcast? Why do I do YouTube? Why do I make art? And we will talk about that. And I think it's such a good topic because are we actually honest when we ask the question from ourselves? To be continued. Have a lovely, lovely creative day, and I'll see you here and socials soon.